The defense of Johor was a critical phase in the Malaya Campaign, December 1941 to January 1942, during World War II. As the last stronghold before Singapore, Johor became the final defensive position for British, Australian, and Indian forces against the advancing Japanese army. Despite desperate resistance, the battle resulted in a rapid Japanese victory, paving the way for the fall of Singapore. 1. Strategic importance of Johor. Johor was the southernmost state of British Malaya and the final defensive position before Singapore, Britain's key naval base in the Pacific. The British sought to slow down the Japanese advance and protect the crucial causeway linking Johor to Singapore. However, poor planning and underestimation of Japanese tactics led to a swift collapse of Allied defenses. 2. The Japanese advance into Johor. By mid-January 1942, the Imperial Japanese Army had overrun most of Malaya. Their next target was Johor, where British-led forces attempted to mount a last stand. Battle of Gemmas, January 14, 1942, Australian troops launched a counterattack against the Japanese, using ambush tactics to slow their advance. While initially successful, they were eventually overwhelmed. Battle of Muar, January 14 to 22, 1942, one of the bloodiest battles in Johor, where the Indian 45th Brigade and Australian 8th Division fought fiercely but suffered heavy casualties. The Japanese used superior coordination and air power to crush resistance. British retreat to Singapore. After sustaining heavy losses, Allied forces were forced to retreat across the Johor-Singapore causeway. On January 31, 1942, British engineers destroyed part of the causeway in a failed attempt to delay the Japanese invasion. 3. Why did Johor fall so quickly? Several factors contributed to the rapid Japanese victory in Johor. Japanese tactical superiority. The Japanese army effectively used surprise attacks, night operations, and jungle warfare to outmaneuver the British. Air and naval dominance. The Japanese controlled the skies, allowing them to bombard British positions without resistance. Low morale among Allied troops. After weeks of retreating, British-led forces were exhausted and demoralized, weakening their ability to fight effectively. Lack of coordination. British forces were spread too thin, and poor communication led to disorganized defenses. 4. Consequences of the fall of Johor. Opened the path to Singapore. With Johor lost, Singapore was left vulnerable, leading to its surrender on February 15, 1942. One of Britain's greatest defeats. The rapid fall of Johor and Malaya exposed weaknesses in British colonial defense strategies. Rise of nationalist movements. The Japanese victory weakened British control over Malaya, fueling independence movements that would later shape Malaysia's future. The defense of Johor was a last-ditch effort to halt the Japanese advance but ended in disaster for the British-led forces. The battle demonstrated the effectiveness of Japanese military strategy and marked the final chapter in the Malaya Campaign before the fall of Singapore, one of the most devastating defeats in British history.